So dawned on me, a member of the Wicked Senate, that's the folks that watch the show live, and if you're watching the VOD, hello to the Wicked House. She asks for me to share my thoughts on why I think people go for Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and those types, those people who are proudly ignorant, those people who are appealing only to the worst instincts that we all have. And I saw a clip the other day that I thought was enlightening. Now most of this is just talking about other UK politics, but I thought it was so enlightening for the mentality that goes into voting for these people. And it comes down to people not knowing the specifics of how things work, but having a general sense of how they work. And the short of it going in, because I'm not trying to keep you in suspense here, the short of it going in is because people have a general sense of what is wrong with the country, but no sense of the specifics of who's doing it or why, con artists can come in and appeal to that outrage because it's in lieu of there being an actual proper solution to it currently existing within our system of government. So if the answer to stuffy corporate Republicans is stuffy corporate Democrats, and the outcomes are basically the same, whether it's because they voted for them willfully or they got forced into voting for them, the outcomes are still that middle-class people and lower get poorer while their bosses get richer. They're vulnerable to people like Boebert and Green, who do things like miss important votes and not read up on what the Glass-Steagall Act was. Here's the interview. We're only going to watch a portion of it. Hopefully, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Told the
because
world.
we all know it. You know, when I always have this phrase, you know what you know. And you do, and you know when you're being lied to. And the vast majority, look at the local election results, you know, the vast majority of people know that there's something not right. They know they're being lied to, no matter whether they read the Daily Mail or not.
Yeah.
But the Conservative base, he said, was split. So you have effectively the red wall, which they describe as loyal nationals.
Right.
Go back.
Local election results. You know, the vast...
Let's go back. Hear it again.
Or because of it, but this is
No,
despite
this
being
is in
constantly
spite-
told the
Because
world.
we all know it. You know, when I always have this phrase, you know what you know. And you do, and you know when you're being lied to. And the vast majority, look at the local election results, you know, the vast majority of people know that there's something not right. They know they're being lied to, no matter whether they read the Daily Mail or not.
Yeah.
But the Conservative base, he said, was split. So you have effectively the red wall,
Doesn't that sound
which
familiar?
they describe as loyal.
Carol Lauderman. Never mind my long-standing crush on her. She's right. People know what they know. What do they know in the United States? Sorry, it was first part of the second half, it turns out. My bad. Let's talk about that on the other side. So, how does that translate to politics in the United States? Well, people see that we used to have our richest people be millionaires. Remember Brewster's Millions? Brewster becomes a rich person, Richard Pryor, because he gets millions, not billions. The big challenge is he's got to find a way to spend the hook of that movie. He's got to find a way to spend millions of dollars by within a certain amount of time, and that's a challenge for him. And they look around and they see that you used to be able to work at a gas station and support a family. You used to be able to be a waitress and raise a couple of kids. You used to be able to be someone who is a mechanic, and you could afford a car yourself without having it be entirely reliant on your ability to fix it yourself. They see that the middle class is shrinking. In fact, it's gone. And there is now an aristocracy, and there's us. And they feel it. They live it. They don't necessarily see it in those exact words, but that's the gist. And they're constantly told. They're told by the left. They're told by the right. We're going to fix it. They don't say specifically what they're going to fix. There's just promises to make things better, and things keep getting worse. And how do they get worse? How do they get worse? Because there's actually a way to measure that. You'll only hear it talked about vaguely by people that don't have an interest in actually fixing it. I sure do. I got an interest in fixing it, I'll tell you. The percentage of our labor, as in American productivity, keeps going up. In fact, it's skyrocketed. And it's not just true in America, it's true around the world. Productivity is flying up. But instead of the people who were more productive getting more money, instead what's happening is they're having to work even harder just to survive. And now we're at a point where you cannot work hard enough to survive. It's been a long time since you could have worked hard enough being a regular person to live comfortably. You have to take on debt. You want your kids to live a good life? You want your kids to have a college education? They're going to have to enter the working world with debt. They're going to have to owe some unnamed rich person somewhere. So what happens? What happens is people like Lauren Boebert, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Matt Gaetz, people like Donald Trump, one of the worst offenders here, they tell you it's a mysterious cabal. The Jews. It's those darn brown people coming across our border. They're the ones. They're the ones taking up all your labor. And they do a lot of work to make sure you don't know that we've measured it. And we actually know who's stealing all your labor. And they are right, it is a tiny group of people. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with religion. Doesn't even have anything really to do with nationality. It's just your boss. In fact, it's not even your boss. It's your boss's boss's boss. It's the person that owns the mega conglomerate that owns 100 companies, one of which you work for a franchise of. That is who is the problem. It's because we allow this person who benefits from the roads and the police that keep people from speeding on the roads. Ultimately, that's really all we need them to do. At least when we're talking about the patrolmen. It's the people that benefit from the schools. It's the people that benefit from you working, being productive. It is the people who themselves are not productive at all. They sign checks that could be signed automatically by a computer. It's those people who take all the profit. And they do really risky things with it. And when those risks fail, do they pay for it themselves? No, we pay for it. So people are left with these feelings of betrayal, and they're right to feel that way. They're quite right to feel that way. But they don't know the specifics, so they are vulnerable to lies. That's the cause. That's it. That's the problem. People want to believe in Pizzagate. People want to believe in the kind of evil that we see in the movies. People want to see a villain with a long mustache to twirl and a damsel tied up on railroad tracks because that's a more entertaining story most of the time. That's what we're used to seeing in our stories, but the real evil, the real harm, it's so much more boring than that. It's the person that told your grandfather that smoking won't kill you until it killed him. The people that told you the same thing this very week about wildfires. All that smog in New York, that won't kill you. The people that tell you lies. But most importantly, quite simply, it's the people that take your productivity. When I say they take your productivity, I mean you do X amount of work, and that work gets divided up, and you give a portion of it to your boss. And over years, slowly, they've been stealing a larger and larger portion of it. You can argue some portion of that is fair. You were allowed to do the work in the first place because they hired you to do that work and they provided you with the tools. Okay, neat. They are let's say owed a fee for the opportunity to be productive. But you were the productive person, not them. Don't get it twisted. What you did had more value. And the fact that they are now taking the majority of the value of your labor is why a waitress cannot afford to raise kids being a waitress. A car mechanic has to walk to work. It's just not sustainable. And Donald Trump and his ilk, they are a response to that. Guess what? So was Barack Obama. He was elected on the promise of change. He didn't provide it. Donald Trump was elected on the promise of destruction. Why are they supporting the storm? Because a lot of these people would rather see the destruction of the country than go on being the marks for billionaires. It's just that they don't think it's billionaires because they've been lied to. They think it's all sorts of other folks. So our job, you, me, our job is to set them straight. Who's causing their problems? Just point them at these folks. It's entirely possible we won't agree on most things, but when presented with the facts and the opportunity for revenge, I think the American people, and frankly, folks around the world, have demonstrated a willingness to get these motherfuckers. But it's got to start with redirecting. It's got to start with education, and we have to make the education accessible. We have to speak in terms folks will understand. We cannot say we need to control the means of production. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. Put it in ways people can understand. Your boss's boss is stealing from you because they are allowed to. That's all it comes down to. That is the answer dawned on me.